Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. Well, it's here. We're in the throes of the holiday season. And with that comes a lot of great things. Joy, happiness, fun, gatherings, all of that. Also coming along with that are some challenges where you have to deal with certain people, where you're tasked with not eating as much as you really want to, overeating during the holidays, putting up those boundaries when Uncle Vinny has 4 glasses of wine and talks politics and it does not align with you. What do we do there? We're going to dig into that today. And interesting look at it as well, because she is somebody who is a writing coach. She also helps people move their careers along, but along the way, and she'll explain this, which I think is beautiful, has discovered some principles that apply to everything to help us out with navigating the holidays and so much more. So great to have her back with us. Marilyn Horowitz is on the program. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me, Steve.
I am interested to you've shared a lot along the way in many different areas, but when it comes to these things like not overeating, putting up boundaries during the holidays, I'm interested to hear how you're going to suggest that we navigate this. Where do you want to start?
Well, I'll just let people know that we're making up a little booklet, which we're giving away as a Christmas present, which should be ready in a couple of weeks, which will, it doesn't have a name yet. Basically, it's called How to Thrive, Not Survive During the Holidays. And it covers a lot of these areas. And, my basic technique is this unique technique that allows you to access a part of your brain that you usually can't get at. And that's the deep unconscious part of you that is sort of like your inner GPS system. And the idea that you can do that while you're awake is pretty cool on demand. So that's the underlying thing that I'm, why I bother doing what I'm doing is because there's nothing else like it. And it took me a long time to find it.
Is this what you showed me a number of weeks ago?
Yes, it's the hug, I love you, Steve. We'll always be together. We'll always be safe. We are enough, and we demand and expect better. That we did that. And then you imagined a word, and you made a mental cluster of a few images, and then you told me a story. And it was powerful.
What you did is what I had to do over a number of hypnotherapy sessions to address the inner child. And essentially, after all of that, and it was fine. Yeah, it was a game changer. It was all good. What it did was allowed me to reassure the child in me and the one that's in all of us that is sometimes holding us back from different situations that we grew up with. Doesn't have to be majorly traumatic, just life in general. Essentially, that's what this is doing with the hug and maybe repeating a mantra.
It's I think of it more of a reassurance. It's like soothing, oh baby, it's okay.
Can I share something with you?
Sure.
And it's a grown man sharing this.
Okay.
You said soothing. There are times where I can't fall asleep right away. Got a lot on my mind. I will do this to my chest. I will just rub my chest. I'm laying there in bed, just rubbing the upper part of my chest. And after a while, I don't even know it's my hand doing it. I just feel the sensation of I'm being soothed, self-soothing, if you will. And maybe 3 minutes later, I'm off to sleep, and that's it. It seems like kind of in the same territory.
It's all in the same territory. The difference between me and every other else is that I'm a writer and I'm a storyteller. And I'm not interested in happiness. Happiness is a boring subject to me. What's interesting to me is storytelling and creativity is a result of this. And that's why I'm such a hard ass in general. It's like, and that's why I have such a very bad opinion about therapy of all kinds for that reason, because you need a product. What's the product? The product is, anyway, it's a long story. I spent 17 years in therapy, so I'm entitled to have a bad attitude about it.
Let me ask you, okay, was there benefit? Well, you did it for 17 years, so you must have seen some benefit.
The benefit is that I probably would not be here now if I hadn't done it. I was in very bad shape. And so, again, of course it helped me and it was great. In dire situations, but at a certain point, very early on, within about 2 or 3 years, if my therapist had been more ethical, in my opinion, she would have said to me, Marilyn, you need to upgrade. You need to move from Freudian to Jungian. You're a creator. You can't keep lying here on the couch doing dream association. So I had a classic Freudian analysis. And I have a lot of opinions about what the ethics of interaction are. And that's one of the reasons that I became a writing coach, was because I was mistreated very badly by one. And I thought, well, okay. And you asked me how I got started. The way I got started was I was a writer. I went to NYU. I was probably the first woman to write, to direct, and produce her own short film in the grad school I went to undergrad and get it bought by a major network, blah, 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 blah. Did not come easy. It was a time when women were not taken seriously. Not that they are yet, but it was worse. And, I'm just a little bulldog. I'm like, just, don't mess with me. And then basically what happened is that because I won this contest and I got this coach, she ended up ruining my screenplay because she managed to disempower me to a point where I couldn't write. I mean, I had like the worst case of writer's block. That's why I'm a good teacher, because I've suffered through all this stuff firsthand.
Wow.
But I ended up editing her novel, which got published. That's a long story. And it was probably a good thing because the screenplay wasn't really that good. I mean, I'm probably, in retrospect, when I think about it, I'm like, it was fine. But at the time, it was very traumatic. And so I thought, well, I don't like this. And because of the background I come from, I was like, I can do this. I know how to help people not be broken by criticism. I know how to help people take it, and it's like a football. It's like, go to the end zone, get there. And so it was a very natural evolution. And the person, of course, I had to help most was myself, as you gather from my comment about therapy. And I was my own worst student. Very stubborn, very resistant, awful. And I was a terrible writer. Oh my God. So it took me a long time to get to a point. The reason I was a bad writer was not that I couldn't write. It was that I was so emotionally closed off that I wasn't willing to be emotionally present on the page. And that was the big lesson. So that understanding of what the problem was is what led me on this long journey to understand how to access, if you want to call it, this is a Freudian way of expressing, Freud said the only way you can access your unconscious is through dreams. And I'm like, F that, man. I want to be awake. I want to be able to snap my fingers and have that muse come in. I don't want to have to wait around for inspiration. That's not okay with me. And so, 25 years later, or 20 years later, I came up with this technique, which currently is being called the Beyond Happiness Method, which will probably be changed to the Marilyn Initiative System because we're still doing all of our brand stuff. But the basic thing is the hug that we did, which I'm happy to do at the end of the class. The reason we didn't do it is I'm greedy to talk to you. So next week, I missed you for a couple of weeks, so I missed the interaction. But the basic idea was I wanted to access the unconscious while I was awake. And again, meditating didn't do it. Hypnosis didn't do it. Nothing did it, except for this weird thing that happened when I did this. And then I had people imagine a word and had to make up a story. Then this thing happened. Then there's like,
What makes the connection, Marilyn, to the subconscious with the word? Because I get the self-soothing. I demonstrate it puts me to sleep. So I get that, the
Mm-hmm.
hugging feeling every day kind of wakes up your senses and like, oh, I got you, little person inside.
Right.
But what is the connection with the word?
See, that's where it gets interesting. So
Secret sauce.
The secret sauce is just a piece of good luck on my part because I'm so stubborn. I just figured out a mechanism. So I can explain the neurobiology to you, which is basically that there's a combination of mudra, movement, mantra, and movement. That I've studied various esoteric traditions. I'm certified in certain kinds of yoga and Reiki and stuff like that. And what I realized was that there's a moment where there's an interaction between the three nervous systems that it's a portal. It's like that. It's a thing. And
So what the nervous systems, is it that parasympathetic, I always forget them. Help me out
sympathetic,
here. Sympathetic, parasympathetic. And the other one?
and then the other one, the name just went right out of my head because you asked me. It'll come back. But you have these three nervous systems, and they dance.
Yep.
And they have different jobs. And so the idea is that remember, I'm an inventor. I found a better way to write because I figured out that people dream 3 times a night. We're experts. And so I found a way to take Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, make it simple and make it endlessly repeatable so no one could fail to tell a good story. All right. That's my really, I'm a rebel. I really hate the way everything is taught to people. And so this is my revenge. Every time someone would write the end on a screenplay, I'd be like, yeah. So there's a lot of aggression in my desire to be helpful to people because I want them to win. And so discovering these neuroscience, the somatic moments in from studying meditation and working on this, I went, okay, I've accomplished my goal. My goal was I want to be able to get myself into that state of inspiration while I'm awake. And I really am one of those people, I just don't like meditating. I don't mind 15 minutes, but I just, the body's meant to move. The body's meant to move.
I get you there. I truly, and I finally, in the past year or so, can say that I can meditate and I enjoy the peace. That's it for me. But in terms of getting answers and downloads and things, I got nothing for you. It's not,
it's all good. I just, you can tell I'm a particular kind of person, which is I am very annoyed with the way most people think about everything because they just take too long and they're not direct. And life is short. Every minute you can't make up your mind. So there's a minute I'm losing, So, and as we progress in our lives, that meaning, that statement has a lot more meaning than it used to have, right? So the idea is that it's the combination of the words that I've created. Now that's a very long conversation. That's a 3-hour conversation to explain how I put this is not a random mantra. Okay, this is a big deal. It does all kinds of work on your nervous system, right? And it affects your neocortex, it hits your reptile brain, and the sounds that you make. It's all of that kind of stuff. The particular movement is also connected to these various meridians and how you get your brain. And the idea is that basically we have two halves of our brain. We live in a state of dualistic separation, and meditation after a while gets you to combine things, but it doesn't get the two things to move. And that's what inspiration is. When you're totally involved in something, you have no sense of time passing. You have no sense of there being an outside or an inside. And that is a neurobiological state that is attainable. And the idea is, CBD helps and all that stuff helps, but you don't want that. You want to be able to go, okay, I got to make a Thanksgiving turkey. I want to be in that state of complete connection with what I'm doing. So I make the best turkey that was ever invented. And I know now from reading Marilyn's books that if I do the hug and I say these words that she made up and I don't think too much about them, and then I, in my mind, see a bubble chart and I think of the word well done or excellent or whatever, and I see other words, and I remember that time with my mother when she taught me how to make stuffing, and then I thought this time with this other person where I was in France and we went to some French restaurant. You get 4 or 5 of these, and then you say, well, cooking for me represents an opportunity for me to show love in all these various ways and also to remember my great life. By the time you've done that, which has taken 3 minutes tops, you are in an exalted state. You're in the state. I got there just by talking about it. I'm sure you were following me. We both feel like, yeah, great, let's go make a turkey.
You're right. You're 100% right. Because guess what's happening? I'm seeing, and I'm sure everybody else, visuals of my grandmother who passed when I was 14, but I still remember her and that apple pie she used to make for Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. And I can smell it.
Yes, I can see her at the counter with the fork around the crust, putting the design on it and her spin on it. But that feeling of family, nothing wrong. My mom used to make yams with marshmallow on them. Nobody makes them anymore. Those are good.
Really good.
It's the only thing I ate, but it was so good. But yes, it takes you right back. There's a connection.
But the idea that we are both suddenly having a multi-sensory somatic experience together remotely over the video by my seeing about 30 seconds of this process should kind of sit you back on your heels and you go, whoa. I mean, that's a whoa there.
Even what you just said and how we made that connection, and we're from different families, et cetera, that just proves how you can tap into, even collectively, that part of your brain.
Yes, and what I'm up to was that when I was a kid, I probably told you my mother was a philosophy professor, and we had this huge wall of books, and I basically read my way down, and everything was about how to think about things. Nothing was how to do things, and I got incredibly frustrated. And when I read Freud, I got really mad at Freud. I mean, I come from that family where people, these are living things. An argument about Freud's theory of dreams was dinner table conversation interspersed with politics and case law. It's like they were very, very, and so I thought to myself, I'm not going to do this. I want to be able to access my unconscious while I'm awake. I'm not willing to accept that exception, and I'm not willing to accept the fact that I'm being victimized, which is the Freudian view. Somehow your id is in there waiting to attack you, and unless your superego gets in there and bats it down and keeps you in there, it's a whole story. Everything, all these things are stories, and it just really annoyed me, especially because I was so, I feel that I was very victimized by accepting these stories, and I wanted other people to stop. And I also wanted to be able to get on, like I'm on a call with you. In 3 minutes, look what we accomplished. We have this great connection. We've created a safe space. Anybody who's listening is inspired and can smell your grandmother's pie and whatever. And to me, that's the meaning of life. I mean, that's love. That's a communication. We're all having this collective experience.
Mm-hmm.
We're all pretending that we're all separate egos and stuff like that. But there's a part of us that is all enjoined, and that's the part of us that's super smart. So why not, go in there? So I'm very subversive. And the book that I'm writing, and the reason it's taking a while is to explain the levels of how we are unable to actually be a whole person. Because we have the biological imperative, and we're in a body, and the body's saying, whatever you do, we're going to stay alive. I don't care how you feel. I don't care what you want. We are staying alive. And what happens is, because you get trauma, that part of you gets very twisted around and doesn't understand that what it's doing is not really very good. Then you have that. And then you have, religious and societal conditioning, right? Which you're born into, which includes your parents. And then you get to fourth grade and you suddenly realize that if you want to fit in, you got to stop drawing these weird monsters. You got to start drawing butterflies if you're a girl and trucks if you're a guy, right? And, by the time you get to be 18 or something, you don't have much identity left.
No, it's all been squeezed down to your. It's like when you were a kid, you were able to drive over every lane on the highway. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. Now you've been, placed into the one lane. Stay there. Don't deviate. Overeating. We started talking about that, and now I'm intrigued, based on everything you were telling us, how you could help somebody from overeating during the holidays.
All right. So we have about 5 minutes. I'll do my best. Okay. The first thing to understand is that overeating is not the problem. Okay, the first level is, if you're overeating, it might just be that you don't get to eat sweet potatoes with marshmallows enough, and you just binge out because you haven't had it. The secret there is to just eat them until you can't eat them anymore, and then you're like, okay, no matter how many I eat, they'll still be there. That's the first secret. If you have something you binge on, the first thing is you go eat as much of it as you possibly can, and you have a conversation with yourself, and you reason with yourself, and you say, look, that 7-Eleven that I'm buying pizza at 11 o'clock at night, it's always going to be there. There's always going to be pizza there. My anxiety has to do with something else. I feel that I'm starving. I feel that I won't be taken care of. I won't be fed. Because I've now reassured different parts of me that the practical reaction is I'm not going to starve. Now I can start to give myself a moment to see what's going on. So there are 3 questions you can ask yourself that are really great, which is, what am I most afraid of? And of course, the obvious answer is I'm afraid of extinction. But beyond that, what am I most afraid of? And the answer usually comes up pretty quick. This is not psychological. Okay, so me, I'm afraid of being abandoned. I think 90% of people have this as one of their main fears. And so that drives a lot of what I do. I want to be liked. I want to be appreciated. One of the reasons I help people is because I want them to like me. All that stuff. It's no big deal. But when I'm feeling taxed because I've got to go to my relatives and I'm having to send Christmas cards and birthday things and whatever, I feel that I'm emptied out. I feel empty. I feel hollow because no one's taught me to give it back to myself.
What a pivotal moment here with that, because we all get stuck in the throw of the holidays. Got to buy this present. Got to make sure I get them something. Got to make sure they get something really good for them. Put the tree up. Blah, 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 blah. What's in it for me? Ask yourselves.
The answer is, I won't be abandoned. I won't be kicked out of the cave. In other words, if people could just be more simple about things, that the fundamental fear is not even death. It's of being kicked out of the cave. It's abandonment. It's not being seen. And if you're willing to be honest and not worry about the details, you see, this is one of the keys. You don't worry about the details. You just convince yourself that the big things. There's always going to be a lot of food. Now, one of the holiday rules is, if you're going to someone's house and they're making something special, you need to let yourself eat as much of it as you want to, because you're never going to have it again. You have to start to make a distinction, right? It's like you can eat, there's no reason to get upset about Twinkies, Okay. But you can get upset because it's mom's apple pie and, she might never make it again. So
So
that's,
I want to make sure I'm hearing that clear.
yeah.
If you go to a holiday gathering and it's one of those rare dishes, the dumplings come out, you know, it's a family recipe. Eat it, enjoy it, eat more of it. You don't get to enjoy it that much. When it comes to the other things that's always going to be around, you don't have to wait once a year to get Twinkies or whatever it is.
Right.
That's where you should have that awareness.
It's a conversation, right? And the word of the day is very good because the self-soothing aspect of it reduces the binging and the craving, quite a lot. So the first thing is get into a hug and tell yourself it's okay. You love yourself. You'll always be safe. You'll be okay. Because that's the thing you need the most is a self-connection. And just that little circuit breaker is going to help you stop binging. You know what I mean? You'll just stop the face stuffing for a minute.
Do you feel, Marilyn, fundamentally that we overeat without even knowing that we're doing it because that part of our brain is saying, just keep eating. You never know. This could be the last one. It could be, back to, the evolution. It may be, a month till we get another tiger, find a lion or whatever it is.
That's what's triggered. That is what's triggered, you see.
Wow.
And that's why it's so hard to overcome it. And so the first thing to do is to understand, is to make that distinction. Is this something that is ordinary that I can always have, or is this a special situation?
Sure.
And if it's a special situation, then you have to be a grown-up and you say, okay, how many calories is this going to cost me? How many gazillion calories are in that plate of me? Just give me a gravy bowl and a straw. I'm happy, right? I don't need anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, how many gazillion calories are in, 2 cups of those mashed potatoes or whatever? It might be 2,000. It might be a lot. It might be for your whole day's food calories for in one time. Then you go, okay, I got it. I'm making a choice that I'm going to do this. And I understand that it's a lot more calories than I normally eat. And I'll just work it out. You have to trust yourself a little bit. You have to say, I'll trust yourself. And suddenly, if you do that, instead of getting into a thing and beating yourself up and going into a drama and pathologizing it, and it's, and yes, I was bulimic when I was 14, and, I couldn't eat one day and I got shut outside. If you take all the stories away and you get in with your biological imperative and you say, okay, what's up? The answer is always going to be in some way, I'm empty, I'm starving, I'm not getting nutrition on whatever level that occurs on. Whether it's being seen, whether it's being hugged, and understand that the biological imperative doesn't understand metaphor. It doesn't get that eating that sweet potato could be replaced with a hug. That's just not how that part of you functions. But you function that way, and you can reason with that part of you. And the idea that you take your power back by noticing is what changes everything. You interrupt the behavior because you're not at the mercy of it. You're making a choice. You say, okay, I'm going to go eat that whole chocolate cake. I know what I'm up to.
Now, based on that, is it reasonable to think of it as you're telling the child inside you, almost like, you have a 6-year-old, Mom, I want some ice cream. No, you can't because you have dinner coming up. You can't have that maybe later. To think of it in that term where I want that, those yams with the marshmallow. I want that. To approach it that way, well, you can have that because you don't get to have that often. It is Thanksgiving. It's something special.
That's
you can have second helping is okay. The other stuff, let's be honest with each other. You can have that anytime. It's not, you're not in DEFCON Nutrition 5 here. Ease back on that. Is that the way to think of it?
No, that's a good way to think of it. Now that will help the 5-year-old, but
inside, yeah.
Yeah, but but a lot of times what comes up in holidays is the infant that never got what they needed.
Yeah.
And so what's screaming is not for the food, it's for all the love they never got. Seriously. So this makes me cry. People are very sad in this way. That's why, learning to do things like Feldenkrais, which are somatic techniques, are much more powerful than just traditional yoga because they're all about self-soothing and self-touch. In other words, that to me, any discipline that has to do with you being kind to yourself physically is going to be very helpful. So what happens is that you're there and you're and being with your family stuff triggers how you were when you were a kid. You can't help it. That's how that goes. And that kid that did not get what it wanted, now very few kids ever do, that's why this is so universal, is going to start screaming and say, I'm 50 years old, when do I get that love? And I know you're getting tears because it's tragic. And the point is, yeah, you can give it to yourself. And and yes, and yes, that works, but it doesn't work immediately because we're so conditioned not to understand that we're the person we're seeking that it's not going to work right away. That's why the hug is so powerful because it cuts through everything. The particular movements of your mouth, the way you move your hands, it will cut through all that. But you have to understand that we're in there screaming. We're the little infant that mom didn't come and feed, and the kid doesn't know that mom wasn't bad. My kid doesn't know that mom was busy warming the bottle. I mean, the kid has no ability. But that screaming infant is the part that needs to be soothed, and that's much deeper than the inner child. And that's why hypnosis was good. But that's why this, when you do it, is so much better because it's really addressing a much deeper part. And that
Well,
part, yeah,
movement. That's what's missing. That's
that's
what's
it.
missing.
You
Movement.
rock
I mean,
babies.
researching this, studying this, that's what I found even this year. That the movement is missing. Would you say, Marilyn, would you say that all of us, to some degree, feel the lack of love in us? You could be in beautiful relationships, everything's great, but deep down inside, because of our childhoods, and you're a kid, you don't know, mom's warming the bottle, you want it now, or you could be 4 years old, whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, but the real, if you want to get all the way to the bottom, and since you and I go deep, is that when we're born, we feel that we're part of everything, and at some point we realize that we're separate,
Mm.
and that would be okay because that's it's true and also not true. You're part of everything, and you're also your own little wave in the big ocean of whatever it is. But the societal reinforcement that goes back 6,000 years before, even before the spoken word, is that somehow that's desirable. That there's something noble about being a distinct personality and doing it on your own and blah blah blah, and it's all mythology because this is a field of energy, and there's not one single mitochondria that works in its own vacuum, and yet that's what we're taught to want from ourselves. So we're separated from that largeness, and then we're told that we should be separated from that largeness, and then we're basically punished for not being. And then we grow up and we work with this terrible wound. Look at you. You feel it. You understand. We all have this because of our conditioning. It's awful.
It's awful. It just is.
Just awful.
But it's
And
but it's life. It's the way it is. The conditioning, define the conditioning so we're all on the same page.
yeah. So the idea is that the possibility is that people can come to a point where when you do my work, for example, you just try it, Steve. You do the self-acknowledgement hug 3 times a day. After a week or two, you're going to start to realize that you're a rotating constellation of personalities, that there's not a Steve, there are many Steves, but there's all part
Oh,
of Steve.
yeah. Let's get that out of the way here.
Yeah.
That it's parts of your personality, not multiple personalities. That's something we put over here. It's
Yeah.
everybody has different parts. You could have hundreds of different parts of your personality, as I understand it.
Yeah. But the idea is we're taught to try to be cohesive. So we get all this stuff that really is very, very damaging. So it gets to be the holidays and everybody's supposed to be happy. And there you are at some family party and you smell the apple pie and your screaming infant wakes up and goes, "What?" So it's not the inner child that you're working with. That's why it doesn't work, Steve. That's why all this stuff doesn't work because the inner child, you've got it. You could teach inner child work. I mean, you really understand how to do that. I mean, really, my hat's off to you. This is much deeper and more primal,
Hmm.
you know?
Well, the soothing thing that it works. And as I'm getting memories too of even falling asleep doing this.
Of course, of course.
I'm not kidding. Like I remember now. It's like, and a lot of times I'll be laying in bed and it's like, yeah, I'll put the covers up. I'm like, it just works. We need to be soothed. We need to be, feel comfortable and safe and
So,
safe.
so the short answer of how you control overeating is the primary thing is make a distinction of the two distinctions. The first one, and then we can end. The first one is this something I can eat all the time, or is this a one-off experience?
Yep.
Two different, and if it's a one-off experience, you have to be practical and figure out how many extra calories you have to not eat for the following week. Or what I mean, you have to be practical. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Doesn't mean that acknowledgement doesn't take away the calories. It doesn't. All right. The second, and the most important thing is to take a breather before you do it. Just the hard part of the hug works as a circuit breaker, where for 30 seconds, you're not on automatic. You're getting hold of your, biological imperative, and you're not just, trying to get to the last piece of the whatever meat was killed in the cave or whatever. So those are really the two things, which is just to make those distinctions.
I appreciate this conversation today, and I'm on board with everything that you've given us along the way. Now it crystallized. It truly did in terms of your technique. Is it the unhappiness technique or what do you call it again?
Well, yeah, that's my Google keeps doing it. Well, we're not calling it the Marilyn Initiative Technique, TMIS, because what I realized after doing this for years is that, to me, really what we're stuck in is the happiness trap. That's a whole conversation for another time. And that our goal is to get to freedom. So what's beyond happiness is freedom.
Oh my gosh, that word resonates with me. Short 15-second story. Getting divorced many years ago, walk into the bank. Bank ladies there who I'm still friends with decades later, and
Sure.
we support each other. But here I am. I didn't have an account at that time. It was the joint account. Things were a little mucky and everything. And she goes, all right, I'm here to help you with your account. You need a password. I'm like, she looks at me. She goes, freedom. And I never forgot that. Never forgot that. Marilyn, how do we connect with you if on whatever the level might be? Understanding this stuff?
Well, a holiday thing I do is I offer people a free 15-minute consultation. And, I'm a writing teacher, so I'm most useful in that capacity. But if you're having some kind of story, which we all are, I can be very helpful in helping you sort things out because it's very practical. My website is marilynhorowitz.com. I give a bi-weekly free webinar. We've got one coming up on the 26th, I think, in which we do the practice and we work on these holiday problems. And, I'm available.
Well, you are a master at this. You help people craft stories, move their life forward in terms of even their writing skills. But could we also call you like a transformation guide? Because really, that's what we're doing. We're making transformation.
Thank you for the confirmation. That's my business. And my business really is instant transformation, which is why we have the self-acknowledgement hug. In other words, this thing shouldn't take 20 years. This thing shouldn't take 20 minutes.
Well, guess how many hypnotherapy sessions I had to arrive at the same thing where I could have done the hug.
Add 1 hour, 5 times a week for 17 years, and you'll see how much time I spent.
Thank you for today and
Very
all
welcome.
the insight. Good stuff. And we'll looking forward next time we talk.
I think we appear next week.
Beautiful. All right. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes 2. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.